Okay, hello and welcome to the She Who Dares Wins podcast. And my guest today is Anna. Welcome to the show.
Hi there.
All right, we need to give some context. So, if anyone listening already know Anna, because we met a few years ago, we'll get into that. But She Who Dares Wins, tell me how you've dared and won.
Well, the main thing that pops into my mind when you ask that question is, I guess, about my career. So previous to the job that I'm currently in now, I worked in like a totally different field and was on, I guess, like quite a linear track, like progressing through it. So taking it back a few years, I studied theatre and performance at the University of Leeds. I'm from Brighton originally, if you couldn't tell by my accent. I'm not a northerner by birth. But yeah, came up to Leeds to study theatre and performance and really got into like experimental live art, like really avant-garde, weird, theatrical stuff, and kind of graduated with this like real appreciation for, I guess, anything that wasn't traditional theatre. So like I really wasn't interested in like Shakespeare or like old dead white men telling me what was interesting or, you know, hearing about their point of view on the world, and was really interested in how art can be taken like outside of traditional art settings. So not in a theatre, not in the ballet, not at the opera, not in a gallery, thinking about how you could bring art to people where they already were, like at the pub, in the post office, in the street. And so wanted to like, I guess, pursue a career in that, had no idea how. Ended up becoming a producer. So my role was essentially there to help independent artists mostly, or like small scale art organizations and festivals, bring their ideas into reality. So I would handle like all the sexy stuff, like the budgets, the risk assessments, the team, and try and build, I guess, like a supportive bubble around artists to help them realize all of these like life-changing and culture-shifting concepts and like experiences for people. And I did that for about 10 years and really loved it, you know, like really got so much from it, met some incredible people, had some absolutely humbling moments carrying weird pieces of set around Leeds in a taxi, you know, having members of the public ask me like, what you doing? What's this? And me having to go, oh, well, it's, you know, this cultural intervention, and like really trying to pitch it. But yeah, it was an amazing kind of crash course in how to bring art and culture to people kind of where they were. Really enjoyed that. And then after about 10 years, Leeds was lucky enough to bid to be European Capital of Culture.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we were halted in our tracks to bid to be the European Capital of Culture because of the EU referendum. We kind of obviously we're no longer part of the EU, so they were like, you probably won't be our capital of culture this year. We were like, that checks out. But Leeds did this kind of amazing thing as a city, which is like classic Leeds and why I love it so much and I'm so proud to live here. They basically said, well, we've done all of this dreaming and we've asked the kind of artists and the community activists in our city to dream of what a program for European Capital of Culture would look like. You know, what story did Leeds want to tell to the world about what and who it was as a city? We can't really put that toothpaste back in the tube. Those ideas have been had. Why don't we do something anyway outside of this framework? Which is really risky because, you know, I don't know how much your listeners know about like those kind of opportunities, but they come with millions of pounds.
I was going to say funding for that.
Yeah, it's mad. And like just the clout and all of the framework of, you know, cities who have done it in previous years, they all like really come to help and they give you advice. So to do it without any of that is a little crazy. But Leeds is a little crazy. And I love that about the city. We are completely, you know, it's really difficult to put our culture in a box. I think I looked at other cities like Liverpool or Manchester. I grew up in Brighton, like I said, and you can kind of easily describe their cultural output in like a few words or sentences. With Leeds, I'm like, you know, it is Leeds United, but it's also West Indian Carnival, you know, and it's also, you know, Opera North, but then it's also all of the like stuff that goes on at Wharf Chambers and this amazing queer culture. And you can't really put a finger on what Leeds is.
It's a bit of everything, isn't it?
It is about the diversity and the variety of the city. And I was really excited to help tell that story and to create a year of culture, which is what I ended up going to work for, Leeds 2023, Year of Culture. to try and communicate that with people who maybe kind of took Leeds for granted, or just kind of thought, oh, well, we're all Leeds, aren't we? You know, you don't really need to think about how you package it up and then tell other people about it and how that might benefit the city. So I went and became a producer at Leeds 2023, which was like the first proper job I'd ever had. You know, I'd always been freelance before that. So it was really nice to feel the kind of warmth of regular money coming in and having a pension, you know, sexy things like that. But it was the craziest 3 years of my life. And I was lucky enough to meet you when I worked at Leeds 2023. Yeah. And as a producer, I kind of joined at producer level and then worked my way up to senior producer before I left. And I was given 3 of our signature projects they were given to produce, all of which were at a scale I had never encountered before. But one of them was called the Wow Barn, and it was this phenomenal collaboration with Women of the World Festival, who are usually based down in London, but they're a global movement, all about trying to create equality, essentially, in the world for women and non-binary people. And, you know, they do incredible conferences and talks and festivals and these massive projects. But the thing that they'd wanted to do specifically with Leeds 2023 was build a physical structure in 24 hours with 300 women and non-binary people. And like 24 hours starting at 6 p.m. and finishing at 6 p.m. the next day. Like, we worked all through the night. And it was a completely mad dream. Like, I can't stress enough how daunting it was to hear that as the concept, and as, you know, a 22-year-old woman, just be asked to like have at it and make that happen. But it was so liberating, and, you know, we picked up loads of people along the way who made it happen. We chose our site, we partnered up with Leeds College of Building and their amazing team there to train up. You know, 150 of the participants had never touched a hammer before, you know. Yeah. And to create a timber frame structure in 24 hours, we had to skill them up with these essential skills, and like also give them a little insight into what it's like working on a site, like on a building site. And the whole point of the project was for women to have more agency over the world that they lived in. So it wasn't just designed with, by, and for men. It also embraced the fact that, you know, we also live here, and we would also like to have some agency over how our worlds are created and like literally built, which is obviously how I met you.
Yeah, and it was a fascinating project. Like, it opened my eyes to perceptions of building and construction, but also there were so many women that I spoke to. I think I did a night shift, and remember speaking to actually some girls that were in construction at the time. It was really interesting chatting to them and having camaraderie with them about what happens on site. But then also women that had like never touched a hammer before, and how much they felt empowered, not by the whole project, but just whatever it is that they did on that project. And I think that's huge. I think, and to do that on scale, like if you'd have phoned me and said, "Hey, Michelle, I want to do this," I'd have been like, "See you later, Anna." Yeah. Like, you're like, "Yes, I'm good, thanks." But yeah, I think it's incredible. But then for you at such a young age as well, to take on a massive project like that.
Wild. Yeah, it was. But I mean, the thing that I loved so much about the Wow Barn is it made me feel completely invincible. You know, it was that. And in such a short time period as well, like 3 years is nothing, you know, from hearing the original brief to actually delivering the project in that short of a time span. It does make you feel like, great, anything's possible. You know, we made that happen. And, you know, I still bump into barn raisers in the supermarket all the time. And to have that connection with 300 people and more that you never knew before, you know, people were sharing some really beautiful but heart-wrenching reasons for why they got involved with the project. You know, everything to, I was really interested in woodwork when I was a kid, but my dad told me it wasn't very ladylike, or, you know, only my brother is allowed in the shed, things like that, all the way to, I really wanted to be an engineer, but, you know, I was kind of told that it's not a great work environment for women because there's so few people, like so few other women in the industry. I just was so fueled by that, you know, like that really lit a fire in me to try and make it the best possible project it could be. So yeah, I agree. Doing things on scale and having that like sense of collaboration and community being built around a cultural project I've never experienced anything like that before. So yeah, when I got to the end of Leeds 2023, it was a time limited project, hence you can kind of guess in the name. So I was like, I'm going to need a new job. And I'd been really lucky to work with two phenomenal women at Leeds 2023 who were like my managers. One who was our exec producer, and then our director of programs, who are both like really, really dear, close friends to me, still are. And I'd watched those two women really throw their whole lives at this job. You know,
Right.
like they lived and breathed and slept and ate Leeds 2023. And I think seeing us get to the end of the year together, the natural progression for me would have been to go try and get an EP job somewhere else and then to move on to director of programs. And I feel really fortunate that I got to have those like beers and glasses of wine with those women to know that I really didn't want to follow in their footsteps. Like I had this real like sense in me, this like, I don't know, yeah, feeling in your gut feeling of, I don't think that's for me. You know, I don't want to, not that I don't want to work that hard, but I don't think that I've got the same like tenacity that they have. And I think what I really love about my job is being close to the community of people that you can build around a project and the art. And it felt to me that the further up the ladder you went, the further away you got from that bit of the job that I like hold most dear and that fundamentally gets me out of bed every morning. And nobody works in the arts because it's well paid or glamorous.
No.
It's the complete opposite of that. You know, it's a constant fight. You're constantly having to advocate for the work that you do and to beg people to value the work that you do. So you really have to know that you're doing it for the right reasons. And I just felt really, like I didn't want to keep doing it. I wanted to get off that treadmill. And then, so Leeds 2023 finished in December of that year. But I was contracted to work till January, but it was about like, I don't know, December time. And I'd kind of been advised to start looking for a new role, obviously, because my contract was up in a couple of months. So I was like, okay. Hadn't really seen anything because I was looking in all the wrong places. And then 3 or 4 people had sent me a job call out to be the arts director at Sunnybank Mills. And I was like, why are people sending me this? Like, I've never worked in a gallery before. I've got no curation experience, you know, bar a few projects that I'd done a few years ago. And, you know, I work in live events. Like, I don't really do visual arts. But I kind of, after the 4th person sent it to me, you know, and you're like, maybe I'll just read it.
Yeah,
you know,
there's a sign.
What's going to hurt? Yeah. And obviously I read it on the last day that the job post was open. So I was like, well, if I want to apply, I've got to do it like in the next 4 hours.
Oh, wow.
And I remember it so vividly. It was like a Sunday morning and I was in bed on my laptop, like so tired, so delirious after like a crazy project for Leeds 2023, like filling in this application. And I do think that was a moment of like daring, like risk, because I have never written a cover letter that was so honest. That was really, you know, this is who I am. This is what I can offer you. If you're into it, great. If not, absolutely no worries. You know, like take it or leave it kind of thing.
So it wasn't a sell your soul kind of, please have me. I think that's so important. You know, I think that is something that a lot of us have done in the past. I certainly have done that. I've listed like everything from measurements of inner leg to like, just please take me. Just please take me.
I'll do anything.
I will scrub the toilet.
Yeah.
And knowing that you don't have to do that is so important. And I think that then when you do get the position, you know it's right.
Yeah, and that was exactly it. You know, I wrote this application, got an email back like 2 days later being like, yeah, great, we'd like to invite you for an interview. And I was like, what? You know, really? But I genuinely, and you know, the email that they sent back was just basically saying, we'd just love to meet you. Like what you wrote made us think, I want to meet this person because they've been really genuine and authentic. And it didn't feel like I'm a team player, but I also work well on my own. You know, it didn't feel like, I mean, now it probably would have been written by AI. Please don't write your cover letters with AI, by the way. It's like the worst thing
Damn
ever.
it.
Don't do it, Michelle. Stop it. I'm joking. Yeah, so I came in for an interview, and I'd been to Sunnybank a few times before for events and to come to the brewery and to go to Scrap and things like that. But I'd never really engaged with the arts program here, truth be told. But when I met the team and experienced, you know, how they'd set up the interview and all the care and just walking around the site here, I just was like, oh, damn, I love it. I'm in love. And it was really like love at first sight in terms of thinking, I know I don't want to climb that kind of ladder of production and producing in large scale cultural events. And I didn't know what else I wanted to do, but I think it might be this because my role now is arts director at Sunnybank Mills, big reveal. And so my job is to manage the art gallery that we have on site and curate the shows that we have. We have an extensive commercial workshop program. We have almost 50 artist studios on site, which I manage. We have a massive events program here. But the kind of tagline of my role is to bring art and culture to the whole, 10 acres of site that we have here. And I think what really sold me on the job was community, was feeling like there is such a rich history of making and manufacturing at the highest possible level in these physical walls, and that it is a complete gift to be able to continue that legacy and to find new meaning and value for that for like future generations through art, and that people have congregated around these spaces for hundreds of years, and they will do hopefully for hundreds of years going forward because of that. There's nothing more authentic than just this place was designed for people to make things, and there are still people making things here now, and oh look, you can see them in the gallery. I just love it.
It's idyllic as well, isn't it? I often think that Sunnybank Mills is it's kind of like where you'd expect a film to be shot, like like The Holiday or whatever. Like it's
quintessential.
It is, isn't it? And it has a lot of history that people don't realise. When people come on the show and they come up to the studio, they're like, oh my god! And then I tell them about the history of the mill, and they're like, this is incredible. I don't think you can take away the feeling that gives people. But how has it been quite hard in that? Most people, I guess, would look for art, and this is your whole area, in inner cities. Like that's where they go, other than, I call it, I don't know who it is, but the Banksy of Leeds that goes around and draws on all the...
Burley Banksy.
There we go. He basically draws amazing things on BT boxes, isn't there?
Yeah, the electrical boxes.
Yeah.
Absolute legend, by the way. Definitely look up his work.
Yeah, awesome. And I didn't really know the history of Farsley until I kind of moved here, and I think that's what's so special about it, isn't it? Is that it is, it's here and people can come and see it, but they don't necessarily know about it.
Yeah.
But is that a massive thing for you to?
I mean, having an art gallery, well, I feel really lucky because when I was a kid, my parents were snobs, so they would take me to museums, not to arcades. Like, I grew up on Brighton. I think I went to the pier twice. Like they were actually taking me to.
But Brighton's really artsy.
It's super artsy. So it was just on my front doorstep. And my parents really, they wanted to go see a play. So they would take me to a play. I'd never got like, oh, we're going to soft play. It was like, no, you're going to play on like the steps of a museum, And at the time I was like, oh, I don't want to do this. Like, I just want to be like all the other kids, like having a nice time and going on a roller coaster. I don't want to be looking around an old church, Dad. Thanks very much. He's an engineer, so we did a lot of like,
okay.
Look at that archway. But I'm like painfully aware of the fact that majority of people don't have that kind of upbringing, and that to access art, exactly as you said, you have to go into the city centre. You normally have to, leap a kind of another barrier, which is around payment, and it can be really expensive to engage with art and culture. And sometimes there's a lot of, that's not for me. That space isn't for me. I don't belong there. I don't know the rules of that space. Whereas what I love about Sunnybank is that we are on a high street in a village sandwiched between two massive cities. and we can be the first gallery someone comes to see in their life and the last gallery someone comes to see in their life. You know, the collection that we have, the program of work that we have in the gallery is for everyone. And that usually means that like one size fits no one. But I do think in this case, because my background isn't in traditional curating, I'm just listening to people who are coming in. And what I love about working here is that people really tell you what they think. You know,
You've got a small town mentality.
Absolutely.
That won't work here.
but people are like, they have ownership over the space and they feel comfortable to go, why have you put that on the wall? Or, hey, do you want to put my work on the wall? That's my favorite one. We have 2 regulars who come in every Thursday, and one of them goes to Farsley Art Club. And I hope you won't mind me sharing this, but he must be in his 60s, maybe early 70s. And he's just taught himself how to paint. And he told me that he used to work for the airport in like doing weather reports and stuff like that. Because I'd said in one of his paintings, oh, your clouds are really good. And he goes, oh, because I used to work in weather, like meteorologist.
Yeah,
I wanna
meteorologist,
say.
yeah.
So I was like, you should paint clouds. And he went, really? And I went, yeah, if that's interests you and you've got an experience of it, you know, that's what makes you, you know, unique. So he comes in just after Christmas and he goes, I've been painting clouds. So he put his piece up in the gallery for a little bit, you know, and yeah, just, I love it. I love that instant feedback loop you get with your community. And every show I put on, I think about what people are going to say and how our regulars are going to respond to it. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's always easy or it's always going to please them, but that sometimes I think, is there something we can do that helps them into it? You know, can we have a little, we've got an amazing piece in the gallery at the moment, which is like a chainmail necklace. And the artist has really kindly provided us with like a little sample of it. So people can touch it and you can see all of the loops that she's done by hand. And I just see people of all ages, from all walks of life, walk up and go, something to touch. Because you're not usually allowed to touch in an art gallery, right?
Do you know what? I think that's it. And I think that's the traditional thing that puts you off. So I, very similar to you, was, I say this, it sounds horrendous, but dragged around many an art gallery. I remember my mum always now still tells me, she's like, we took you to see the Bear Tapestry and you just went, is it just this? Is it just this woven shit for like however many months?
Put this long bed sheet on the wall.
Yeah. And I was, in fairness, I was probably about 12 and like into other shit. And yeah, but now I realised how privileged is a word that was, because, you know, going to Paris and into London and to New York, these are the things that people don't get to experience. And actually now as an adult, I do like doing, but I'm probably more into the immersive art space just because, I don't know, do you see it as a bit of a rebellion against that?
I just think people's tastes change.
Yeah.
And I do think that we are exposed to so much visual stimulus these days, like through the internet, through social media, and like really high quality visual stimulus as well. You know, it's not just something that someone's like put together on Microsoft Paint, you know, people are really churning out some incredible stuff and it's free to see. So I do think that when people come to a physical space, they are after more of an experience, like you say. They're wanting to feel like they're getting an experience that they can't have online. So whether that be a conversation or to meet with a community, or are they having like a physical refreshment? Are they having, you know, I'm really proud of the fact that the gallery has a cafe in it. So people do a loop around the gallery, then they have a loop around the shop, and then they go, oh yeah, I'd actually love a cup of tea. And they sit with the art and they have time to look at something and think about it for more than just the, you know, 30 seconds that you're like stood in front of it. And then you go, okay, yeah, no one's looking. I think I can move on and pretend like I understood that painting.
Which is a classic one people do. Yeah, like, am I supposed to see something here? I think that's what's nice, isn't it? It's interpretation.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's telling people that however they interpret the work is okay and is allowed. And I'm a huge fan of telling people that I don't have any curatorial experience, because personally, I find that really liberating. You know, it means that the work that I'm able to put in the gallery, I can just stand in front of it and ask a few questions. You know, why would I have it at Sunnybank? Why would I have it here now? And what do I want people to think about when they walk away from it? You know, and I've absolutely loved kind of self-educating myself around the importance of curation and how the people who are doing it well are like artists in their own right. You know, they're masters of their craft. And I think one thing I'm really hell-bent on becoming is an expert on curating at Sunnybank Mills. You know, I want to know everything there is to know about my audience, about Farsley, about the community here, about the artists in the studios, so that it just feels genuine and it feels authentic, because the only thing that I have that the Hepworth doesn't have, or that, you know, YSP doesn't have, is the site and is the history of Sunnybank Mills. So I'm just really trying to squeeze as much as I can out of that.
Yeah. How much of the curation process is like selfish, as in, has an idea ever come across and you're just like, yeah, it fits the bill, but I think it's shit.
Yeah.
But it has to be, right? Because that is your position, that is your role. Like, again, it's subjective, isn't it? It's,
Oh, completely.
you wouldn't want to put something out there that you don't, that the masses might enjoy, but it's not your taste. How do you walk that fine line? Like, is there a way that curators do it in the industry? Like, what is the way to curate?
That's a great question, and like I'm actually not sure I know how to answer it, because we're fundamentally a commercial gallery. So the reason I exist is to sell artwork, and if I was a good curator, I'd probably put way more landscapes of the Yorkshire Dales on the walls,
Right.
because that's what people want in their living room.
Yeah.
And who can blame them? The Yorkshire Dales are beautiful, and you know, there are landscape artists locally who paint them beautifully, but I'm not necessarily that interested in those pieces, because I don't think and I think this is because of where I've come from and my background working in socially engaged art and in events. I think that the purpose of art is to expand people's horizons, get them to question things that they maybe take for granted or assume, to communicate how different people live and different lived experiences, and to get people thinking, essentially. So I think sometimes if I see a piece of art and I go, that's pretty, I think, oh, maybe that would work really well in the shop, but not necessarily for the exhibition. And you kind of touched on it, but fundamentally I have to stand next to that and say, I think that's good enough to be in the gallery.
Yeah.
And if I don't think it is, and someone questions me on it, I don't want to be stood there going, I just thought people might like it. Like,
Yeah.
I want to do more justice to our audience, and for them to know that I've really thought about why every piece in this exhibition is here. So I do take it really seriously, and I do a lot of research, and because I'm so new to it, I have gone to an insane amount of exhibitions. I go to every graduate show in like the region. I'm really trying to like do my research and see as much as possible, to learn from the greats, but also to know what my taste is and what I like and what I don't like. And I've kind of set a remit up for the gallery at Sunnybank to really be a platform to champion contemporary craft, because we're based at an old textile mill. It kind of sits really nicely, and there isn't loads of places doing that locally. So it feels really nice to kind of carve a little niche for ourselves to do that. And I really love objects. I'm a complete hoarder. So there is a selfish part of me that goes, oh, look at that nice bit of ceramic, like look at that amazing glassware. And I get a lot from what I would call, like, craft is usually like functional art, essentially. So it's a jug, it's, you know, a lovely piece of textile or piece of cloth. It comes from a functional object, and it can be made useless, if you know what I mean, but the kind of starting point was that it was a functional object. And yeah, I personally really like that kind of stuff, because I understand it instantly.
Yeah.
I've got a piece in the exhibition following the one that's on at the moment, which the show is all about the relationship between textiles and love.
Okay.
So, you know, how pieces of cloth that we wear or bed sheets like contain meaning. Bayeux tapestry would have been a great addition. But the piece is all about the relationship that fans have with football. So the love that you feel for a team or for a position, or like playing a bit of sport. And the piece is called She's a Keeper. And it's a handbag, but the handbag is a real football that's had like a zip and a like handle put onto it. But then it's got these two goalkeeper gloves, like reaching for the ball.
Oh, wow.
So it looks like the handbag, it looks like someone saving a goal. And I just love that can be in the gallery, that is a piece of art, because I can see so many different ways into that for our audience. I can see a young girl going, oh, wow, there's a handbag in the gallery. I can see a young lad going, there's a football in the gallery. I can see, a slightly older teenager going, oh, that's cool that like a young Chinese woman plays football and she's really proud of being a goalkeeper, but she also has this feminine side to her. I can see someone in their 50s going, oh, she's a keeper. That's a kind of term of endearment. And why is it that, they've used that as the title for the piece? Like, I try and look at it from every different possible angle I can imagine, as to why that would be a good thing and a cool thing to see in a high street, off a high street in Farsley.
Do you ever overhear the conversations of people walking around, and is that kind of like a good part of your job?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
whether
it
it's
really
good
is.
or bad, I suppose it's quite good to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have to overhear them. I think most people now feel able to go, Anna, what's this? Which I do actually really appreciate, because I've worked in enough arts organisations where people didn't care and didn't take the time to ask, that have unfortunately closed down or, kind of ceased to exist. Because if people don't have that sense of ownership over a piece of art or like, an arts organisation, then it's really hard to keep them going. Whereas if I've got someone coming in and questioning it, that means they care, and that means they want to know more. And that's a gift, for a curator or for someone running an organisation. You can't ask for anything more than that, really.
Yeah.
So I've totally forgotten your question, but
no, as in like the comments from people. I think that's.
Oh yeah, do I listen to people when they go around?
Yeah, because I imagine I think that's like a great little documentary, is to mic up. I don't know if they've ever done it. Mic up like a typical museum or an art gallery where. Like my mum used to berate my dad, like I'm going to shame her here. She's from the arts sector and teaching. And my dad was like, oh, I don't get it. Like, and she was like, oh, Brian, just look into whatever. And we were all like, I think you've just made that up. But I think there was a lot of shame with arts in that it seems to, over the years, have been only accessible like theatre to those that could afford it. And then if you don't understand it, I think that's the great thing about art, is you don't have to understand it. It is purely whatever you see.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of, there is a shame associated to it. And I think in a small gallery like we have here at Sunnybank Mills, I imagine that kind of goes out the window. I know people around here say how they feel.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
So
they really let me know. Also, I think that there's I personally feel a responsibility to try and work through some of that shame with people. And, we've done something recently, towards the end of last year and beginning of this year, where we do an open call for every exhibition for zines. And we've just started our own zine library. And zines, for those that don't know, are basically small kind of handmade magazines. Zine. And they're really, really quick and dirty, easy ways for artists or writers or poets or whoever to just get their thoughts out. You can photocopy it. You can kind of produce. The whole point is that you can produce them quickly and cheaply, and just get them out in the world, and self-publish them. And so for every exhibition, we kind of choose the theme of the exhibition and then ask for responses via zine to it, and then we'll have 20 of the zines in the gallery. And I can see people, if they're working their way around the space, which isn't massive in the grand scheme of things, and I can see them not really vibing with anything. They're not particularly engaging or walking over to a piece. They will, without fail, end up at the zine library, which we have on this amazing old bit of mill furniture. It's like a huge old cart that we've converted into a gallery, and a library. And they'll be there for half an hour reading all the zines. And it just goes to show that sometimes people need a little bit more to pull them in. Yeah. And I think sometimes hearing directly from the artist is just such a gift. It really allows people to take their own time, process things a little differently, and to not feel so observed. I think a lot of people in art galleries feel like we're watching them look at the art.
It's quiet. It's always quiet. It's always a space. as someone that was quite a clumsy kid, he was always paranoid that, like, I was like, I'm going to take down, like, Mona Lisa or something in a like, I don't know how, but it's going to happen. Yeah, I think it can be.
They're super intimidating.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, the other nice thing about Sunnybank is it's in the old cloth warehouse. So it's got this really dirty, well lived in concrete floor.
Yeah.
Huge ceilings that we can screw directly into, which is such a gift. Massive windows, it's light, it's airy, it feels lived in. Like I say, there's like the cafe space in the same area, this amazing shop that my colleague Millie curates with like amazing handmade gifts and trinkets in. So even if you walk into the gallery and you're thinking, yeesh,
You
like,
just go to the shop.
I'm just going to the shop,
Yeah.
I'm heading to get a cup of tea. Like, the rules of those spaces are really well trodden for most people, so they feel comfortable in that. And then, if you've warmed up a little bit and you've been in the shop and you've maybe bought a postcard or a button or something, then you're like, oh, actually, maybe I will just go have a look. And my team is absolutely phenomenal, and I know that the best part of their days is chatting to our customers.
Yeah.
Because you just never know what people are going to say and how
Yeah.
they're going to respond to the work. So yeah, we all do tend to linger down in the gallery because you're just bound to have a good chat.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're in between Leeds and Bradford, so people want to chat. People are
Yorkshire folk are very
keen
friendly.
to stick around and like I say, tell us what they think. But I think that in terms of like the risk involved of coming to work here, my biggest fear was that I wasn't going to do right by the site. And my predecessor, Jane Kay, set the gallery up 13 years ago by wandering into the space and going, oh, this would make a nice gallery. Do you mind if I put some of me and my friends' work up here?
Oh, wow.
And my bosses, William and John, were like, yeah, go on then. We're busy regenerating the rest of the site. Like, yeah, crack on. And I think there's so much to be said about that. Taking an opportunity when it's there. I really hope that people know that Sunnybank is still like the land of opportunity, and that one of the favorite parts of my job now is that I get artists coming in all the time saying, have you ever thought about this? And what are you going to do with that old bridge out there? And that'd be an amazing place for a mural. Or, different people's interpretation of the site is what's going to keep it alive and what will keep it being relevant and interesting to new generations of people. So I really hope that people continue to come, and even though I feel incredibly lucky to be the kind of custodian of the arts program here for hopefully a few more years, I really want people to know that they can come and talk to us, pitch us their ideas. If you want to do an exhibition here, if you want to put an event on here, if you think we're doing something badly or there's a different way of doing it, like, I don't really know what I'm doing. So like, come, let me know, you know, this can be something that's done with, by, and for the community, not necessarily just by me.
Yeah. No, do you feel like it is a bit of a legacy though, isn't it? Like, you've come into something that it means so much to you and to the local community. Like, how would you, best case scenario, want that to play out? Like, it's hard for me to ask you this. Like, are you going to be here till like forever? Because nobody knows, do they? But is this a story of Anna that's Farsley and then ends up in London doing some huge? Like, are you letting that just play out?
I'm not, because I was really lucky to get some kind of like mentoring support when I first got the role here, because I was so nervous about the curation side of things. So I worked with an amazing curator called Bryony Bond, who used to run the Tetley in town before it became Yorkshire Contemporary. And Bryony, I asked her, like, what am I doing? Like, what's my next step on my career ladder? And she was like, oh, well, I've never really thought about it like that. I've always thought, what do you want your last job to be? Like, the job before you retire, what do you want that to look like? And I kind of thought about it for a couple of weeks, and then we met back up, and I was saying, it's really hard to put your finger on that, because I think you probably want to be ramping out rather than ramping up. You want your last job to be something maybe a little bit more about work-life balance, and maybe it'll take you to somewhere a bit like slower paced. And she was like, exactly. You can start thinking about how you get from where you are now to that end point, rather than just what's the next step up or down or across the playing board. I'm thinking about snakes and ladders. That's how I think about my
Yeah.
career.
No, that's interesting that she said that, because I think we're seeing a shift with people. It would be great for them to have that insight. Because we've been on this like treadmill of what's next and where to go, and having
like growth. It has to be the next big thing. It has to be better than what you're doing at the moment.
Yeah, and for what?
Why?
Like, for what? Like,
what if I'm just really good at this?
Yeah.
And I don't want to be promoted into something I'm not that good at, or I won't enjoy, or that takes me far away from the thing that I love most about my job, which is kind of
and
what I
you've
was
probably
talking
been
about.
exposed to that with those big projects. Like you say, those two are directors that had probably the most incredible job, but on reflection, not much work-life balance.
Yeah.
And you think the reality is you wake up from, I mean, I did it, wake up from 17 years of just absolute chaos and go, I'm not sure that was worth it. Or like, hold on a minute. Yeah. And like, and to have that, to be able to not go through that is going to be great. But also what you've got here is seems like your baby anyway.
Oh, I have to pinch myself every day. I cannot believe this is my job.
Yeah.
Because it is a complete gift. And at the moment, I mean, I had a different job. When I was a freelancer, I worked somewhere different every single day of the week, 6 days a week. So actually to just have to wear one hat is such a relief. Like, it just feels so nice to really like sink your roots into something and like really get a grip of it and really understand it. And I mean, I've got absolutely so much respect for the art world, you know, and that whole, you know, I guess like career trajectory that you could go on, but I'm not sure that's for me. You know, the things that I've identified that I love about my work is Leeds. I love the city of Leeds. I'd do anything for it, you know, and the people of Leeds. And I also really love artists. And the only through line that I can find with every single job I've had with my career is supporting artists, facilitating their work. Is there anything cooler than getting to speak to people and work with people who see the world completely differently to you? And not only do they see the world differently to you, they want to make the world a better place by trying to express that and express their ideas through like a creative pastime.
Yeah.
I honestly think that's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
And that will never get boring to me. And if it does, cool, I should go do something else and use my powers for good, not evil. But yeah, for the time being, I really don't know why I would leave, because I'm really loving it. And I've still got so much to do.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. I mean, I can totally see that. And do you create yourself? As in, obviously your job is curator, but do you do any art?
No, I like to say that I'm completely useless. Like, I don't paint. I'm not a ceramic. I've tried everything.
Right.
And I used to be like a completely like a magpie for hobbies. I'd be like, what's my newest hobby? So I've got all the gear for like macrame, jesmonite. I did like 2 years of a ceramics course at Swarthmore. Big up Swarthmore. I've just started doing a jewelry making course with the lovely Emma White here on site. So I like to collect hobbies, but I myself am not an artist. I've always said that my practice is producing. And that is, I think some artists go, oh, that's so sad, but I actually love it. Like,
probably more involved in a broader variety of bringing art to life. That sounds cheesy, but I think so, because you have all these different connections. Whereas if you are in one solitude way of creating art,
it's quite like closed.
Yeah.
I'm such a curious person. Like, I can get excited about anything. And like I said earlier, like when I go into a research vortex, I'm down the rabbit hole.
Right.
Like, I'm really into something. But I just, you know, my dream weekend is going to 17 galleries, trying 16 different new coffee shops, like meeting lots of different people, going to an open studios. Like, I really want to see as much of this world as I possibly can and meet as many of its population as possible. So if that can be boiled down to an art practice, that's what mine would be. Yeah.
I think what's really important is your story is great for, it's a very much a lifestyle job, isn't it? And I think we don't
I like that.
Yeah, we don't. But people don't look for that these days. Would they have an income and create a lifestyle from that rather than merging the two?
I don't know how people do that.
No, as someone sitting on this side now that has done that, it's not for everyone because the ups and downs of being in the artist world, like financially, but I think it stops that kind of pushing for the next thing, because you can be a little bit grateful for where you're at and what it gives you on a daily basis. If it's, do you know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
It is the being able to go downstairs and have a coffee and watch people. And for me, it's been here and being able to see people come and invite them into a space that looks like I wanted a New York loft look. And this studio is very much that, but it comes with the history of what was produced here. And I think, I've seen more and more people in lifestyle businesses, in lifestyle careers, and they don't seem like they're looking for something else.
Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah.
I just think you have to ask yourself what motivates you.
Yeah.
You know, and if it's money, cool. Maybe don't work in the arts. Well, that's a joke. But no, seriously, like I found very early in my life, because actually some amazing, like, what are they called? Like careers guidance that I got at uni.
Oh God, go on. What did they give you?
She was brilliant.
Good.
She was
wow.
really good.
Okay.
Yeah, she basically said, I was kind of talking through, and I basically was wanting to go freelance, but I was like so petrified at the thought of doing that. And she was basically saying, you know, spend some time really getting to know yourself. You know, when do you do your best work? Is it first thing in the morning? Is it at night? You know, do you work well with authority? Do you like being told what to do? Do you want a to-do list that you just tick off, or do you want to?
Oh wow,
you know,
this is someone that's quite forward thinking.
And do you know what? She gave me like a big list of all these questions, which I wish I could rattle off for you now. And then I kind of answered them all, brought them back to her, and she was like, "Why are you showing me? Why are you showing me? Like, this is for you.
Yeah,
I don't care. Like, I'm not going to give you tell you what to do." But I looked at all of the things, and she said, "You know, seeing how you've responded to this, I think you can do it. I think you're self-motivated enough to be a freelancer." And I was like, "Okay, great." And I think I'd asked myself those questions maybe 3 or 4 times after that first time, just to check in and be like, what motivates me? When do I do my best work? What do I need from a work environment or from a project or from my career to, like nourish me and make me want to come here every day?
Which goes back nicely to the original, like the cover letter of not putting down there, I can do everything for you. It's more, you know, we should be looking at jobs that are like, what does it give me? Because 5 days a week, some people even 7 days a week, you're doing that thing that takes you away from like family, friends. Like it needs to be fulfilling.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, working at Sunnybank is slightly bizarre because it's a family-run business. And I didn't really think I knew what that meant. I think I would just always think of like a family-run bakers, or, you know, like something really wholesome. But it does make you think about the link between work and life in a completely different way, you know. And sometimes William and John, my bosses, who are the co-managing directors of Sunnybank, are cousins. And so sometimes they fight like cousins, and you're in the office and you're like, I'm sure they won't mind me saying that. They always resolve it very well, with much kindness. We eat lunch together every day, you know, like every day at 12:30 we eat lunch as a team, all together down in the gallery. And coming from somewhere like Leeds 2023, that was so fast paced, that was so corporate in a way that was very, you know, you're being paid to deliver a service, you're in, you're out, to come into somewhere like Sunnybank, which is like this warm embrace of a job, essentially, was completely life-changing. It really made me think, who am I doing this for? Why am I killing myself to get things done quickly? Why am I, you know, forcing decisions? Why am I reacting to things with this like adrenaline spike when actually it's just art? No one's going to die. It's such a privilege to get to work in this sector. We're not getting paid enough. It's okay just to take it a little bit more at a normal pace, you know. And I still work really hard, and I think it will take me years to unlearn some of the toxic traits that I picked up working as a freelancer, because you say no to nothing because you're worried that you're not going to get anything else if you ever say no to one thing. You never take any holiday or sick days because no one's footing the bill of that for you. So yeah, there are still definitely things that I need to unlearn. And and I'm really, now that I'm a manager to like a fairly big team as well, I really try and not pass on any of those like, toxic work trait environment, habits. So
I think it's just awareness, isn't it? I think that's what it comes down to. Like, if you knowing that you're not trying to pass it on, you won't do that. It's a process.
Definitely.
Well, I think your story is incredible. I think you definitely dared and won, and passed the test. What I always ask guests to give themselves a dare that you will do in the next 6 to 12 months. It doesn't have to be related to your career. It should be something that you've been putting off.
Oh, I have like 2 really different answers to that. One of them is I am absolutely desperate to ride a horse.
Okay, all right.
Because I used to ride when I was a kid, because I spent some time in like growing up in America, which was very cool back in the day. Not so cool now. And yeah, like really got a lot from being outside and like connecting with an animal like in that way. And I have been putting it off for years, but really wanting to like get back into that as a form of, as another hobby to pick up, as I mentioned. I love hobbies. So my new hobby for this year is horse riding. So yeah, that's kind of my first answer. And then the second, like slightly more intense one is maybe starting a family. Yeah, I think that again, I've always kind of prioritized my career potentially over that kind of thing. And it would be really nice to start maybe now that I feel like I've got more of that work-life balance.
Yeah.
I'm looking at my life and I'm like, oh, this is a nice life. You know, there's no reason not to want to share this and to grow this with my partner. And I think that's something that's been on my mind, shall we say, especially over like the festive period. I don't know if you ever find this, but like when you're forced to hang out with your family, sometimes you're like...
Sometimes it gets the opposite and you're like, why did I have children?
Less of these people, less of these people. No, I don't know. There's just something about like Christmas and like when you're an adult child, you're like, oh, we're missing a bit of the magic of Christmas here. And I think it's like, you need kids to like get everyone back into the spirit of it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think for me, like, I realized how even though I like had many hobbies and did really cool stuff and traveled loads, I think I got to a point where I realized that I didn't really know how to play.
Yeah.
And then having kids, I've still struggled with it. I've been like, oh my God, I thought I was like really good at playing.
Yeah.
And then, but kids, yeah, definitely. I pretty much went year on year in my probably late 20s of like, I'll have kids next year. I'll have kids next year. I'll have kids next year. I'll have next year.
Yeah.
And it's just like, hold on a minute, time is running away. And there was always a bit, and I think for me, it was a fear of like, shit, this is another job that is huge and I'm not sure that I'm capable of doing it. But yeah, I think you just know when you know and your life gets turned upside down, but for the best times.
I do think it is just a crazy thing to say that you're ready to do. Because
not many people own that actually.
Because I mean, I talked to my mum about it a fair bit, and she was like, I was literally pregnant with your older brother going, when did you know you were ready? Bit like, Mum. Everyone was like, you're 7 months pregnant. She was like, yeah, but when did you know? Was it this stage? Should I know yet?
You just expect a letter in the post going, you're ready. And you're like, okay, fine.
You've passed this invisible test that we've been doing. Yeah, and I do agree with that. I do think that it's something that, especially like career-driven women in particular, put off.
Yeah.
Because it's, you know, there is a threat that it's like, that'll just be the end of your career. And it's like, I'm not ready to let go of that side of my identity yet. And I do think that fortunately, you know, it's 2026 and that's not the case.
Yeah.
But I do think I'll speak for myself. I've inherited quite a lot of like fear around that and around how that's going to impact me and my sense of identity and not wanting to just lose yourself in being a mum.
Yeah, I would say, like, for me anyway, it's the identity thing is heightened because of it, because you don't have so much spare time. Like, I think you just get to a point where you're like, right, now I have little people to look after.
Yeah.
I think in all honesty, I think it can go two ways. I think it completely go two ways,
Yeah.
and I could divide and upset a lot of friendships here.
50-50.
Yeah, but no, I think it can, and I think you are a person that very much knows what the whole show you've talked about. You know what you want, and you know what lights you up, and I don't think you can ever lose that. I think I was on a trajectory of slightly losing it, but that was because my job was in the wrong place.
Yeah.
I think if you're in the right
Was
place,
that when you were in construction?
yeah, like,
Yeah,
and
wild.
I then had the two boys, and then completely burnt out, and
Yeah.
was just like, I wasn't on the right journey towards the end. You bring yourself back in, and I think what's really important to say is, like, it changes.
Yeah.
Like, and if you're quite fluid in your approach, which you are, you know, what you love now might not be what you like when you have kids. But I can see the lifestyle job of what you've got here working very well. Mine absolutely didn't. That was just like like falling asleep on site and pretending. I had to pretend until I was 32 weeks pregnant that I wasn't pregnant.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so that was
That's
like
a lot of baggy jumpers.
yeah. Well, I mean, no one noticed, and I was like, was I just really fat before then? So when it's like my face was getting bigger and bigger.
They're just literally not interested.
Yeah. But I think no, I think I think a lot of women are also not willing to talk about it and to be like, I do want kids. Like, it's weird, isn't it, how we go through these.
It's like not trendy to have kids, which is so wild to me.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no, I would say, like, me and my friends are probably, maybe like pretty 50-50 split. You know, some people are like already on their second, or, you know, are like, yeah, this year I'm getting pregnant. And then the other half are just a bit like, oh, I don't know, maybe, is that for me? We'll see.
Yeah.
And I think embracing that time in your life where people are so in one camp or the other takes work. Like, I'm really having to work at that at the moment, to just be like, oh, I feel like I'm at this kind of transitory crossroads. So it's good to know that there'll be another crossroads about identity later down the line.
Oh, totally, yeah. I think I did like a roulette. It wasn't as bad as this, but I know it was. It was like, do we go to Bali or do I get pregnant? We were like, let's run the roulette. And I got pregnant, so I was like, right, let's decide it. I don't suggest people do that.
Absolutely wild two choices to make.
Yeah, but it was like the last trip that I really wanted to do.
That's so funny.
Yeah, so much so we were just about to book the flights, and I was like, I'd better just check, because my next door neighbour, not that it's related to your next door neighbour, but we'd been for a meal with our next door neighbour, and she was like, oh, I'm pregnant. And I was like, oh, they're screwed. No, I wasn't really. And I was like, oh, and then I was like, we should check just before going to Bali. And I was like, oh, shit.
I'm also pregnant.
Yeah, I was like, that, Bali will have to wait.
Bali's going to have to wait.
A couple more
But
years.
now you've got two absolutely glorious sons.
Yes,
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah. And you don't miss... Like, people say, oh, you miss so much. You do, but it feels from other areas. Like, you get to tread on Lego at 2:00 in the morning, and
I mean,
like,
is there any greater gift in life?
Or stand on a football pitch at 9:00 on a Sunday with sleet and snow and just think, yes, I'm
What's
here
great?
for
I like
this.
dream about that though. Like,
to be fair, I always wanted to be a soccer mom.
What's up with that? Why am I so? I'm so like, I've been completely indoctrinated by like American TV shows, and I'm like, yes, I'll be there with my
a minivan,
coffee and my camping chair, and I'll be chatting to all the other mums and dads, and we'll just be like, woo.
Yeah.
So weird. Why is that where I go to?
Yeah, I don't know. It's cool. It's cool. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah. No, I think it's definitely on the cards for me, and it's nice to be asked the question and for that to come in to my mind, along with riding a horse.
Yeah. Two very different things.
Like I said, I contain multitudes. Yes. What can I say? I'm a woman who contains multitudes.
And a final one to leave us on. Can you give other women a dare?
Ooh. Other women out there, I dare you to be like radically honest with yourself and to not just follow the trajectory that you think you should be following, to really ask if what you're doing is going to serve you and if it's genuinely what you want to do or not.
Perfect. Couldn't ask for a better ending. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story, Anna.
Thank you for having me. Thanks, Michelle.
You're welcome.